Hello everyone, welcome to HW News. Today let's delve into a slightly different topic. It is related to the revelations from leaked chats of Republic TV founder and editor Arnab Goswami, but the point of view in this episode is slightly different. I assume we are all familiar with Twitter and how basically it functions. You give out your opinion or your take on the matter, and people who agree with you, people who are influenced by you, people who are convinced by you, and people who look up to you follow you. Now, when people on Twitter have huge following, thousands of followers who get influenced by them, I believe that there is a certain responsibility that these people carry. Now look at this tweet. Rahul Easwar, a prominent right-wing activist, he frequently appears on mainstream TV news channels in debates and panel discussions. He tweeted this: I have known Arnab Goswami ji for 12 years. He is a patriot who loves our motherland India. I strongly disagree with many of his positions, but Shri Arnab won't even think of anything bad for our nation. Hashtag stay strong, hashtag Republic TV, hashtag India trusts Arnab. Now this is what he tweeted. Mr. Rahul Easwar believes that Arnab Goswami is a patriot. Now I thought, why not have a word with him and discuss in detail whether he truly believes that Arnab Goswami is a patriot, or is it an act of gratifying or returning some kind of favour because Goswami gave Mr. Easwar space to put across his side over the years. You decide after watching this video. Welcome sir, welcome to HW News. Now first of all, you have been on HW News as well previously, and a lot of people also wrote to us about the interview that you had with Mr. Sujit Nair. Today specifically, I actually want to talk about the tweet that you made. It has created a lot of flutter on social media as well. You said that you have known Arnab Goswami for 12 years and he is a patriot who loves our motherland India, and you strongly disagree with many of his positions, but Arnab won't even think of anything bad for our nation. Now, I would just first of all like to know, what exactly is your definition of patriot? When you say that somebody is patriot, what exactly do you mean? Why do you think that person is patriot?
A patriot is a person who loves their nation or our nation, whichever person that is. If he is a Pakistani patriot, he loves Pakistan, or a US patriot, he loves US. So any person will have a natural affinity to the place where he is born, his parent, their culture, their heritage. It's a very natural emotion. That's the reason why in modern terminology we distinguish between nationalism and patriotism, whereas we usually use nationalism in a much more wronger connotation and patriotism in a much more positive connotation, just like secularism and pluralism. We always view Gandhian pluralism as a much more comprehensive vision than some kind of a debate-generating ideology. So I believe Arnab Goswami is a patriot. He is a person who has always stood up for India, stood up for the every journalist is in the broader nationalistic versus liberal or right versus left in India. There are some of the absolute fine journalists on both sides. I had the great privilege to be in their shows, just like I could interact with Sujit sir or HW News Network and you. I could interact with almost all the prominent news anchors. So I believe there are many positives in them, even while we disagree with them. And if I can add one more word, I was perhaps one of the very few people in India who strongly stood up against Sri Arnab Goswami when he was persecuting literally Shashi Tharoor sir for an unfortunate death of Sunanda madam, who we personally know, or even that poor girl Ria. She really suffered. She had to be in jail for 26 days because of a high-pitched campaign by a section of our national media, which was instigated or inspired by Sri Arnab Goswami. So I was in his programs and even outside strongly opposing it. But let us be fair. My only submission is unfairness anywhere is a threat to fairness everywhere.
Okay. But then tell me one thing. The leaked chat show that Arnab Goswami, on the day that Pulwama happened, just few minutes after Pulwama attack happened, 40 of our CRPF soldiers were martyred, 40 of them were killed in a ghastly terror attack. He says in his chat, this attack we have won like crazy. Now you say that he is a patriot because he stands for his nation, he stands for his country. But then we also have him saying that this attack we have won like crazy. Would you call a person who rejoices after the attack has happened, would you call that person a patriot?
I would totally concede your spirit if we are going to call it distasteful. And please remember, my submission is every text has a context and a subtext. He was the context of that particular text. He is speaking to another, the head of a media organization, which you all know who he is. So it's a talk between two media men. It is not the Indian patriot or a nationalist inside Arnab Goswami speaking. He is a person who is saying, as a media person, we have highlighted the atrocities on the Pulwama, the attack from Pakistan that came from. So, but we have covered it, and there is a context to it. He is saying we are ahead of every other news channel in covering it. So I would submit, in this age of hyper competition, Arnab Goswami as an editor is saying our media is the first media to reach there, first media to showcase it. But if we are going to take it out of context, of course, it will mean offensive. But nobody in their fair mind will believe that a person like Arnab Goswami, or for that matter any Indian or any human, will rejoice in anybody being killed, let alone 40 CRPF Jawans. So it was in the context of coverage of news, which can definitely be criticized, but let us not decontextualize it.
But then, as you are saying, if we look at this particular context that you are talking about, when he says that this attack we have won like crazy, when he is talking about how his media organization was the first to cover this attack, isn't that a person milking this entire situation, which was so unfortunate? Do you think, even on a human level, it is good or it is fair?
See, I respect the spirit of the question. See, there are different hats we all wear. There was a huge controversy like this that happened in Kerala too. It was a very interesting incident where a media person was covering a person who was drowning in a very famous temple. So he captured the entire thing. He was an insane man who was drowning. Or even the famous, I believe, that particular photograph where one particular child was lying down and a vulture was looking, which all the students of journalism might have seen. I forgot the exact person who took it. So there is always a question, why could he not have stopped it, in the case of a media, being a media person. So please see this from a perspective of media. And I would say, even if a normal person misunderstands, I believe our national media, whether they belong to right, left or center, should understand the particular contour or the shade or a nuance in which one editor is saying we are the first channel to reach there and showcase it. It is not taking no shot at, or it is not rejoicing at anybody's death, but rejoicing in the fact that his media organization was the first media organization to point out such an important thing that happened. I believe that would be a very fair argument to make.
Sir, correct. Your argument, I will take it, but only if this would have happened a few days after the attack would have happened. But right minutes after the Pulwama attack happened, minutes after 40 CRPF soldiers lost their lives, a person saying that we are the first media channel to show this and to boast about it to a completely different person, I don't think by any mean it is not milking the situation, and it is not a question on somebody's patriotism. So do you call yourself a patriot?
Yeah, of course.
So would you in your fair mind, in your fair judgment, would you have also said the same thing to somebody else minutes after this Pulwama attack had happened?
I definitely concede the spirit of the question. I understand the aim and sharpness of the question. Definitely yes. See, but please remember, it was never on a public platform. It was on a personal space where he was speaking to someone privately. Yes, on hindsight, on introspection, maybe Sri Arnab Goswami, given one more chance, would never do it, or any person. But he was pointing out as a media man to a person, and I believe it is the responsibility of our media, all medias, including HW News Network, to show that there is an editor side of a human being, there is a journalistic side of a person, there is a storyteller side of a person. So the editor, storyteller has to remove himself from the scene and look at it. And when we are looking at as Indians or humans, there is definitely a distaste in that particular statement. But when you are looking as an editor, every editor sees this as a story. And please remember, even the 9/11 attacks in September in US. See, there are many editors who pointed out, including Christian Aminpar of CNN, or so many people. It would be unfair to say they are milking it, but they are highlighting the situation that is a part of their media dharma. That is a part of who they are. Just like one thing, it is like an advocate who is defending Ajmal Amir Kasab. It is not that he sympathizes with Ajmal Amir Kasab, but India is a land which believes in the idea of free and fair trial. So even for a terrorist, we should give him a fair trial. So there should be an advocate who has to stand up for him. It's a job of that particular advocate. This is called an ethical dilemma in our nation, where there are compelling and diverse narratives who are battling out with each other, and definitely there is going to be a clash of different ideas and ideals.
So what you are saying is, I believe I have been in media quite a long enough to understand that media dharma is to tell people anything that is happening truthfully and fairly.
Correct.
But I seriously don't understand when somebody is milking a situation in private and on screen the person calls himself a nationalist, he calls himself a nationalist anchor. How do you not see the irony? How do you not see the hypocrisy of it?
I definitely got that question. There is a sharpness in that question. If you look back, it can definitely seem like that. That's the reason why I would say this attack we have won like AC only means we are the channel who has brought out this. Maybe tomorrow I get a story. I'm not competent enough to comment on you. I'm a hardcore patriot and I really love our nation. But if we are getting such an opportunity and we are showcasing this, there is definitely an element of doing your duty as a story, as a person who gives narratives, as a person who gives information. Sometimes you have to take you out of yourself and your personal self to show this. So this really happens, and had it would have been branded milking had he said that on national television, saying that we are the first channel to reach there or we are the only people covering it. But he was in a personal conversation telling another person. And please remember, verbal language, especially in chats, are very limited. We don't have the privilege of tone or body language. He was sending a text out of a different text. So he was, pointing the same thing regarding the strike which is going to happen. See, everyone know that there is something going to happen in the coming few days, and we all know our media is a part of the political establishment everywhere in the world, whether they lean right or left. So he may have had information, I don't know. Maybe it was a generic information he had, just like every other Indian, that they are going to get a strike back, just like Imran Khan, who even talked to UN to diffuse the tension. So, I believe it is not a right thing to use this opportunity to tarnish Arnab. See, let me be very honest. I'm a right winger, or I am a center right or a pro right person. So it would be unfair either to left or right when we use an opportunity to tarnish a person. And I sincerely believe a left liberal judge like Justice Chandrachud, who gave justice to Arnab Goswami. Because there are some spaces where you shouldn't be using opportunity to score points. And I believe this is not an occasion to score brownie points over Arnab, just like there were some people who were using Riya Chakravarti to settle scores for an upcoming Bihar election. And that poor Riya girl had to spend many days over jail. So unless we raise the standard of being fairness, unless we raise the bar, it is going to drag down. And just like Nidhi Razdanji is being ridiculed on one side, Arnab is being attacked on the other side, we have become a nation of mutual hatred and mutual attack. Somewhere we have to stop and rethink and introspect.
Sir, I get your point, but first of all, let me say it in all fairness, when the Radia tapes had come out, there was a lot of hue and cry, and there was especially a radar on the media role, the role that media played. So when some kind of evidence that has come out, then I think even this warrants some kind of discussion. And the reason why I am having this discussion is because somebody on a national television who calls people anti-nationals, who is ready to brand people and tell them to go to Pakistan, anybody who dissents becomes anti-national, and the same person is rejoicing. I am seeing it as a complete rejoicing after 40 soldiers in Pulwama martyred.
I would diverge in one word: rejoicing. Of course, that's I know RTG. I respect that opinion, but I diverge from that. See, the issue in India is, we right wingers, we mask ourselves by calling nationalist. The left wingers mask themselves by calling seculars. Rather than directly telling our political position honestly, we all pretend to be impartial and cover ourselves with either the mask of nationalism or secularism. If I am telling something pro-Hindu or pro-right, I am suddenly branded a communal person. If you are telling something on the other side, you are suddenly going, go to Pakistan chale jao, tu Musalman ke piche ho. This kind of narratives. I think there is, and it is our responsibility as civil society to create a center-right and a center-left space where there can be healthy and intense exchange of ideas. Just like we had in the times of Jaitley ji versus Chidambaram, or say Swapan Das Gupta versus Manishankar Iyer, there can be informed and intense debate between left and right without name calling and without revenge seeking and revenge taking. Just like, like everyone, I also have divergence of opinion regarding Kankana Ranaut ji, but doing Ugad Diya was again crossing the line. So somewhere we have to find a sense of balance, and somewhere we have to all tone down so that this hyperbolic narratives from both sides will come down.
Okay. Now, I'll say, as a media person, as you rightly said, that people in media have any information before the common public knows about it. A lot of us, because of our sources, know about something that is going to happen before the actual incident takes place. Because of our sources, you say, or even in case the government doles out some information or something like that. This particular incident, the Balakot airstrike I'm talking about, was a completely secret mission. Arnab Goswami already knew about it, and then he divulged the information rather than keeping it with himself, which is what normally in any other circumstances journalists do. They keep these sensitive information with themselves until and unless that incident has happened. He rather chose to divulge it to somebody else who was not exactly in profession of a journalism.
There are two submissions.
Couldn't it have threatened our national security?
Yeah, there are two submissions. One, it was more of a generic statement. If you carefully analyze the text, something big is going to happen. Pakistan is being all something more than a strike. So, it was again generic in nature. Second, as RTG rightly said, people like layman like me also have some kind of leverage and connection. So we can all imagine the level of connections or networks you have. Because, we always in a lighter vein say journalist is a failed politician in a very lighter vein. So politics and journalism are two hands of the same body called the polity of a nation. So, of course, see, when Barkhaji was there, Barkhaji is a person I have great respect for. Barkhaji was there. Of course, the people from Congress will see her as one of the greatest icons. Barkhaji and Rajdeep sir was given Padma Awards. If Arnab Goswami really likes, maybe Arnab Goswami will also get one or two Padma Awards down the line from the BJP government. Because these are the right-leaning and left-leaning people who are close to the establishment in one way or the other. This is a reality, unfortunately, many of us don't acknowledge. See, it's a reality, which I come from a very communist state, Kerala. So, there are some very good friends of mine on the opposite spectrum, but they know many things that I am not privy to. It's a natural part. And the politicians from the other side, they also need media support. They also need to project strength. They also need to showcase and bring out the particular interpretation and narrative they want. So, they will also take media into confidence in one way or the other. See, this really happens. And in this particular chats, even a person like more of a centrist person like Prakash Javadekar ji is not being told in very charitable terms, whereas Smriti Irani ji is told in a much more glowing term for her slightly aggressive and assertive nature. As we all know, Prakash Javadekar ji is more of a centrist, soft, trying to be inclusive and reaching out to everyone. So these kind of personal chats will keep on happening in one way or the other. So I believe it's a natural thing. And one more thing I would request to everyone to observe is there is a serious fight going in Maharashtra, which is a mutually assured destruction between Shiv Sena and Republic, or between liberals plus Shiv Sena on one side and Republic plus the so-called right on the other side. I was there in Maharashtra past week. I met with some of our friends who are not very high up in the office, maybe around moderate level. It's an intense hatred that's going on. It's only going to happen in a mutually assured destruction. Unfortunately, Aditya Thackeray's name was dragged in. He's a poor chap who is very well focused on governance. Many people, even his rivals, are applauding him for the good initiative of good governance effort he's taking. His name was dragged into Disha Salian. Naturally, if my son's name is being dragged to it, I would find it very tough to forgive the particular person who gave airtime to drag such a conspiracy theory. So it is going to be a very hard fight in Maharashtra. This is the space where we want people like Pranab Mukherjee or even a Sharad Pawar ji can really do it. Any senior person of stature who should step in and say, please stop this madness in one way or the other. It is really crossing the line. It is really getting hard. And they are equally fighting. It is going to only end up in destruction of both the parties. So I'm being very open and candid. As a right-winger, I'm concerned my spectrum is losing out, because at the end of the day, even though whatever Shiv Sena says, Shiv Sena belongs to the identity politics spectrum, belongs to Balasaheb Thackeray's lineage. So, it's a civil war in the right-wing turf that's happening. If I can use that word, it's an internal civil war in the right-wing turf, which is manifesting in these many ways.
Sir, from whatever you have told me now, I can understand one thing, that Arnab Goswami unfairly treated the whole Riya Chakraborty issue. Arnab Goswami unfairly dragged Aditya Thackeray into the Disha Salyan issue. Now, dedicating hours of primetime news on Riya
Even
Chakraborty,
though,
which you
just
rightly
one
said
line,
was a
just one,
possibly a conspiracy theory, dragging Aditya Thackeray
just
into the Disha Salyan issue, a person who is into conspiracy theories, who dedicates hours of prime time on conspiracy theories, and a person, as you rightly said, is leaning towards one particular party, that is the ruling party, how can you call that person a patriot?
two things, ma'am. Just to be very clear and precise, even though Arnab Goswami ji never directly took Aditya's name, or even though Arnab Goswami didn't directly tell anything, he really gave space to fringe conspiracy theorists to call the so-called baby penguin angle. It was very unfair. Even I told in his own show, sir, you are being very unfair. And especially when Rajdeep sir's name was dragged in, I said, Arnabji, it is very unfair. You are dragging down the name of your own senior, who was once a mentor to you, or who were own senior in the earlier channel, which we all respect. So it was, I even told him in this show, you are doing a carpet bombing of Bollywood, unnecessarily dragging in people like Salman Khan or so I think it was even to us, even in Shabarimala case, Arnab Goswami, I would say, took a very one-sided position, but he was fair to us in saying that he gave our devotees also airtime. So I intensely disagree with that position of Arnab Goswami, and also Tharoor Sir's case. See, Sunanda Mad had a very unfortunate death. He is our MP. So I know I am very personally close to their family. Their first joint interview to us was to me. Sunanda Pushkar and Shashi Tharoor sir's first joint interview was to me as a media person. I also work for Kerala Media. It was very unfair to call it a murder. Sunanda was murdered. See, but that's a position he took, and I intensely disagree with it, and I openly disagree with it. I would find it tough to disagree with RDG when you say that he was being unfair to Shashi Tharoor. But let us not return the compliment. Let us be fair to everyone involved so that it can inspire more fairness. I think that is what a liberal judge called Chandrajud ji said or did. He was being very fair to Arnab Goswami. He could have easily avoided the case for days, but he was being very fair to Arnab Goswami. So it naturally, automatically raises the bar. Next time when a Siddiq Kapan's case comes, or a Farooqi who was jailed for that so-called cracking a joke in future happens, we have higher standards of civil discourse in our nation, unlike what happened to Dr. Kafil Khan when he was arrested for months and put in jail, and after High Court came with a verdict saying that he didn't tell anything prejudicial to national integrity. So unfortunately, we as people, I was also a part of it, so I know we are initiating a cycle of revenge between each other. Somewhere it has to stop. So I would request our liberal and centrist circle to be fair to Arnab Goswami, so that in future there is always a bar held up high, saying that, see, even we were opposed to you, even we were fair to our rival, so that next time you treat anyone, may it be a Riya, may it be Shashi Tharoor, may it be even poor Riya's dad, who was dragged into this drug case, saying that her dad, so-called, that was by a different channel, who wanted to fight out with Republic so that they don't lose their market share. So, it's a very nuanced and complicated process. So, let us try to raise our bar in our own humble ways, so that everyone will feel inspired to raise theirs. If we are going to go down the negative spiral, negative loop, it is going to be an endless pit. So, let us try to raise ourselves and be fair to everyone, so that there can be more fairness in the entire system.
Sir, I would say this is not going down the negative spiral, but this is rather calling a spade a spade. If somebody has wronged, we should call it out, just like what happened in the Radia tape case. So I am saying, if in the Radia tape case we did not spare the journalist or whoever was involved, then why should we spare Arnab Goswami and call him patriot and come to his defense? What is the need of it? Why are you endorsing him as a patriot?
Just one submission. I had the privilege to call Barkhaji as a feminist fundamentalist in her own We the People. And Barkhaji was kind enough to give a personal mention to me in her book. I forgot her name, which was a very nice book. She even had a paragraph mentioning me in that book. See, but the point is, when the Radia tape came, it is very natural for politicians to have meetings and interaction with media people. See, when H. Raja's name came up, that was the issue against Barkhaji. When H. Raja's name came up, especially in the UPA coalition times, there were a lot of politicking, there were a lot of balancing, the South-North divide being balanced, DMK being included. It is natural for them to ask a person like Barkhadat for a suggestion or for an input from outside. Just like when a right-leaning, BJP is a right-leaning party, even though they say they are only patriotic and nationalistic. I really like Modi ji. They are a right-leaning party. Congress is a center-left party. These are realities. CPM is more of a left-wing organization. These are all open realities. So a person like Arnab Goswami, like Prashant Bhushan ji said, having unprecedented access to power is a very natural thing. Because, I always say as a right-winger, Arnab Goswami has perhaps done more for right-wing than BJP itself. After perhaps Sri Narendra Modi, Arnab Goswami is a person who almost single-handedly raised the so-called entire right-wing ecosystem. Because when I was starting my debates in 2006, I still remember when I even used to say Hindu-Muslim unity, when I used the word Hindu, I was being frowned upon. So Arnab Goswami did his work as a right center or a center right or a right nationalistic, patriotic, whatever name you want to call it and whatever way you want to tell. So that ecosystem really owes him. There might not be many people who stand up and defend Arnab Goswami for the fear of being attacked. So I believe it should be fair even to Barkhaji. At that point of time, it is very natural that Barkhaji will be consulted. See, these are reality of politics. We don't, I am a Gandhian, but people are not Gandhis, including me. We are not Gandhis. We are more real people who have mixture of goodness and badness, and some amount of leveraging is there, negotiating is there. We live in a very real kind of a world. We are all shades of grey. So it is up to us to highlight the lighter part of grey rather than the darker part of grey and have a very cynical view of the world.
So then are you saying that with 69,000, more than 69,000 followers that you have on Twitter, that you influence, are you saying that because Arnab Goswami did something for the right wing, he gave space to the right wing, he gave space to you, is this your way to gratify him, to call him a patriot and defend him when he cannot be defended?
I am only submitting we should be fair to Arnab Goswami in our assessment. Arnab Goswami may have used some words taken out of context, seem in a very bad way, but he was speaking as an editor, as anyone can see. And please remember, even though such amount of chats have been discovered, there is nothing incriminating, there is nothing illegal, there is nothing anti-national, there is no other aspect of his chat that has been discovered by Mumbai police, anything. Yes, there is a distasteful comment taken out of context. We should see it in a real sense. And please remember, if any of our chats can be taken of the past 5 years, we can definitely find 1, 2 or 3 comments out of context which can be interpreted in any ways, right? If any one of our chats, including mine, I don't know what all I might have spoken to somebody in private, maybe, maybe one particular action of Modi, I might have find it very negative. I might have, used some kind of a word. Maybe Modi is trying to act like a Mahatma Gandhi, is pretending to be a Mahatma. Maybe I might have done. But, we should take that in a context and we should give more value to the public positions people take rather than their own personal banter, their own personal chats with their friends, colleagues, or their own swear words they use. So that public positions of people need to be taken more seriously for a public discourse rather than their private conversations in a particular manner. If I was speaking to one of my friends and I was cracking a pulse at a girl or a woman or maybe even a journalist, somewhere down the line, if you are going to brand me as an immoral and unethical person, a lustful person, it would be unfair to me because I was just passing on a joke to a person. So we should be more focusing to the public positions of people rather than their private, intimate, personal conversation, which might be said out of a lighter way.
Okay. Sir, I would just make one last submission to you. From my point of view, where I see these things, I believe that journalism is a public service and it is our job to speak truth to the people. If I say that something is going wrong, then I should say something is going wrong. If I say something is going right, then I should say something is going right. And from whatever we can see, you are saying that personal stand should be taken completely different to a public stand. I believe that is being double-faced.
My only submission would be the reality of the world is that there are many public positions we all take that might be slightly deviant from the personal position. For example, there might be a senior in our party or in our office or in our organization or in our media. We may have a strong disagreement to him, but out of respect or civility, we may not tell. There might be a public position we take because there is another thing involved. So I think we should be realistic, we should be fair, and I basically believe in the doctrine to err is human and to forgive is more human. So we should have a humane approach to people on both sides of the spectrum. Then only we can have a healthy conversation and an intelligent and intense fight between these two spectrums. Unless we don't demean, seek to destroy, seek to character assassinate anyone in these two spectrums, it would be unfair. It should be intelligent, informed, and intense conversation between rivalry, and there is no enmity. That personal enmity angle should be taken out, whereas intense political rivalry should sustain. Then only there is the vibrance of democracy. The intense personal, intense political or social rivalry should be there, but no personal enmity. We had people like that. Adal Bihari Vajpayee was an Ajatashatru, or people from there were people of both. Even Rahul Gandhi, when he went and hugged Modi, gave out a very strong message that we have all the difference of opinion, but we are ready to reach out. So that kind of a posturing is needed. That will only uplift our civil and political and national discourse.
Well, sir, at the end of this chat, I would just hope that your dear friend Arnab Goswami also takes this point and incorporate some of these ideas into his debates as well. Thank you.
And if I can just add one line, just like this conversation, I totally disagree with RTG in many points, and RTG has very strong disagreements regarding many of the positions. I am just elaborating now, but you are kind enough and especially gave more time rather than shouting at me or rather than intervening and interjecting at every point of time. You are kind enough to show and air a point of view that you totally don't believe in. You have a conviction that I was wrong, but you as a media person has that responsibility and kindness to give a platform to a counter view that is totally antithetical to your view. And that's something that we should all learn from, and that's something we should all showcase, because there is no other way than being democratic, being gentle and kind to each other.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for your time. I especially don't agree with your point of view, as you rightly said, but I'll still believe, as a fair journalist, as a fair news channel, it is our responsibility to give a space to this point of view. Thank you so much. Hello everyone. HW News English is 2 years old now. When we started this venture, we promised ourselves one thing, that news should remain free, because right to know is the right of every Indian. But to keep news free for everyone, we need support from some of you. And thus we have rolled out membership on our YouTube channel HW News English. But mind you, the membership is completely voluntary. The programs that we were doing earlier, that we are doing now, will continue to remain free. First level is a basic level. Here you can be our supporter by paying rupees 199 per month. This membership gives you certain perks and benefits. The perks include unique badges in front of your name, a live show from Mr. Sujit Nair and from Mr. Akhilesh Bhargava per month for our members. You can also vote in some exclusive members-only polls. Now the second level is Super Supporter. Here you can be our Super Supporter by paying rupees 3,999 per month. This membership will include every perk that comes with basic level. Additionally, our super supporters can be a part of a WhatsApp group where we can have discussions and suggestions on various topics. The second perk includes a gift pack with our merchandise. And the third perk is a Google Meet with Mr. Sujit Nair, where you can join the meet and ask your questions to Mr. Nair face to face. Lastly, if you like, we would give a shout out to our super supporters in our programs. So, hope to see you soon with our badges.
Now be the first to know about the latest updates on our new news app. Go on your Android or iOS, search for HW News Network. Download our app, choose the language you prefer to get updates in, and be up to date with the latest news.
If you like this video, please share it and we would love to hear your comments in the comments section down here. Also, please do like our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter to get minute-to-minute news updates. For more such shows and videos, well, subscribe to our YouTube channel.